Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chakra Way Meditation Podcast. And I am so delighted to be with my guest today. I think we're going to have so much in common, and we're just going to have just a really good chinwag, a really good gossip. So, my guest is the lovely Gwyneth Flack. And Gwyneth she's written a book about intuition. We'll get into that later, but she's also been teaching, oh gosh, well, basically transformation, but clairvoyance, chakras, auras, you name it. But intuition, this is what we're leaning into today. Uh, Third eye stuff. It's going to be great. So, welcome, Gwyneth. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I'm really always delighted to speak to somebody who has zeroed in. I sometimes feel like, because I teach the chakras, like there's so much. It's like all of life is there within the chakras. And it's like, oh God, should I just pick one and go with that? And I'm not saying that you have, because you encompass everything. But your book, which is called Limitless, Transform Your Life with Intuition and Creativity, which I love, focuses in on finding our intuition. So let's start there. What do you think is intuition? What is your interpretation, your definition of intuition?
Oh, good question. So
Yeah.
really our intuition is our it's our inner guidance. It's our most aligned soul guidance or inner guidance. Different people, it really doesn't matter what you call it, whether you use the word soul or higher self or inner guidance, GPS, inner knowing, but
Mm,
it's really the part of us that helps us to orchestrate our lives in a way that's really in sync with our purpose and with where we're meant to be and what we're meant to be doing and maybe the highest level of creativity that we can tap into. And it's really there to give us guidance to keep us on our path because it's just so easy in the world that we live in to get distracted and
mm,
detoured or end up just bumping up against so much inner, self-criticism or self-judgment, all those kinds of things. And so your intuition is really there to help you, it's kind of your North Star, if you will, or that kind of thing where it's really meant to help us to stay joyfully aligned. And we're just not taught
mm,
to listen to it
yeah.
or to notice it or see it or really anything.
No, yeah, no, exactly. And I find this really interesting because when I'm teaching the chakra system, we get to the third eye, which is where traditionally, well, in my eyes, it lives. Um, the question that I always get is how do I know what is intuition and what is that inner stupid voice? The critical one, the one that, that inner critic that's trying to keep you safe, or the one that tells you the rubbish, basically. How do I know the difference between my intuition voice and the stupid voice that comes
I
up?
love that. The,
Well,
the
come on, it
intuition
is. It's
voice.
an idiot. But it's an idiot. It tells us all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff. Bless it. It's trying to keep us safe. It's trying to keep us kind of small and safe and sensible. But it's not always, yeah, it's not always the one to listen to. So how do we tell? How do we know which is which?
Yeah, I mean the voice that's the sort of the critical voice. I mean, if it's first of all, if it sounds critical, if it's telling you to compete or control, or if it's telling you that you're not good enough and let me show you how, and all those kinds of messages, like let me prove, that part of us wants to sort of prove to us why we might fail at something or why we're not good at something or
Mm,
it's taking past experiences that we've had, like it could be an experience we had when we're 5 years old and it takes it's that intellectual part of ourselves. It's which is in past time. It takes, let's say, an experience we had when we were 5 in the schoolyard where we were rejected by someone, and it stores that experience, and then we go to a job interview for our dream job, and that experience somehow pops up, even if it's been pushed down in our subconscious. So it could
Mm.
be what we call unconscious or subconscious, or it could be conscious. We just don't know exactly what to do with it. And it
Yeah.
pops up, and then it says, well, I don't know that you're good enough to get this job, or something like that. And of course, that's not your intuition. So, because your intuition is always, it's going to be gentle, repetitive, but in a really kind, calm, peaceful way. I mean, yeah, if we're in danger, our intuition might give us a really loud, get out of the way kind of thing. But our intuition is never criticizing us. It's never asking us to prove how good we are, or,
Mm.
you know, when I say compete, like all competition is really fundamentally that lie, that false feeling of I'm not good enough as I am,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
competition.
Mm.
That's what pops up or whatever when you look on social media, or, whatever. We look at somebody else that we think has a better life than us, or a better lifestyle, or whatever,
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I do find it fascinating, and I quite often like using a sort of somatic, like actually there's a feeling, like it's a yes or no, it's like a feeling that you have within your body, and that's just a matter of tuning in. But there's a subtle thing. So say, for example, like you'd you know said to somebody you were going to go and join them doing some workshop, whatever, and you're like, oh, I really don't, might your intuition goes, oh, but actually it'd be so much nicer if we just stayed at home and, cooked something lovely and just sat curled up on the sofa. And you could go, actually, do you know what? My intuition's telling me that tonight I just need to stay home and be quiet and not go out and do the workshop thing. But actually, if you push past that, you could go and have the most incredible experience and learn something and meet new people and push yourself into out of boundaries. So I feel like there's some interesting subtleties because when our so-called intuition is saying, you don't need to do that, or you shouldn't do, we're too tired, or you've done enough, or, there's all these kind of things that we can go, oh, but my intuition, I just don't feel good about it. I feel it in my gut. I feel kind of like, oh, I don't want to do this. So that must be my intuition. So I'm not going to do it. That's where I find the interesting layers and subtleties of intuition begin to come in because sometimes that intuition is right and you've not missed anything and actually you were better to stay at home and be quiet and give yourself a nice evening in. But other times it's like, damn, no, should have gone, should have done that thing, should have pushed yourself out of your comfort zone. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I love that example because that is often why people do miss a beneficial
Mm,
class, a beneficial spiritual class. And
yeah.
because there's not a lot of permission to grow. There's not a lot of permission in the world. Like when I say permission, I mean in the greater world of humanity, the focus isn't on personal growth or spiritual growth
Mm,
or intuition or creativity or even on collaboration, and community and all those kinds of things. So even though there's all kinds of wonderful things like that going on in the world, the permission is not there. And so if you're a very sensitive person, an
mhm,
empathic, sensitive person, sometimes you're picking up on the fear in the world, and there's often that kind of energy out there that you can be picking up on without even realizing it, that says don't go to that class that might be good for you, or don't even get together with your friends and have
mm,
dinner and just have a nice evening, or don't go on that trip somewhere, or just stay where you are, stay safe, don't take any risks, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But certainly if you're looking at something really important, like let's say a spiritual class, and let's say you're deciding between should I take this one or that one, I mean, really
Mm.
getting grounded and tuning into your higher awareness could help you to discern what might be the best class for you. Or if somebody's trying to decide, should I take a personal growth or a spiritual growth class, or should I take like a design class of something in a totally different category, and they're trying to decide. I mean, if you really get grounded and get yourself into a meditative space and don't kind of strain to get the answer and start to really create a space for yourself to receive the answer through your intuition, and you put out there, I would really like a very clear, intuitive answer on what class I should take, or and whether this is just fear or is this, like a clear message? Because, yeah, that's not the right one for you. You should do this other thing. So I think it really helps to kind of energetically kind of sit back and give yourself a grounded moment and a pause and turn down the analyzing mind and
Mm.
get a very clear answer, because our analyzing mind gets so amped up and it
It's
gives us
so
a whole,
busy, so
yeah.
interfering, got so much to say. No. Yeah.
And exactly. And then it's so hard to receive the answers. The first thing I do if I'm
Mm.
getting overwhelmed, where there's, 10 different things I could do in one day, let's say, as far as, work projects go or something. And then also, oh, I need to help my daughter with this. And there's a family thing going on here and there. And if my analyzer is really amped up, all kind of packed, like a overpacked suitcase or something, the analyzing part of me, and it's sort of like where it's like analyzer on espresso or something. I just turn down the analyzer first and just have a cup of tea and just sit down or go for a walk in the woods if I have time or something like that. But if I don't have time, just sit in a chair and just I say hello to my body and
Mm.
really tune into my body and my senses and being present in my body. Because if I don't start with that, it can be hard to access my intuition, because a lot of times when we're looking for answers, we sort of go out, but the answers aren't ever really out there. The answers are always right in the present
Within.
moment, not
Yeah.
in past experiences. Our past experiences can inform our choices and say, oh, yeah, in the past I liked this or I didn't like this. But really, it's what's happening in this present moment. What is the next best step for me? um, and not even that far ahead, even just what's the next best step. So
Yeah.
is this class, whatever it would be, the next best step for me? Is it really aligned for me as
Mm.
the soul I am, or as the being that I am, however a
Yeah.
person might want to ask the question. But yeah, there's another part to what you're saying too, which is I think sometimes when we feel into things, it can mislead us. So what I mean by that is our true feelings are extremely important, right? And so we want to tap into our true feelings. Do we like this relationship or not like this relationship? How do we feel about our, job or whatever it might be? But on the other hand, we pick up once again, because we are consciously and unconsciously intuitive, and we're out there in the world, and we're um, an empath, we're sensitive, we're picking up so many emotions from the world around us that sometimes our feelings, we end up with what I would call our true feelings mixed with feelings from the world. And we're
Mm.
like a snowball, if you will, like a snowball rolling down a hill or something, picking up more. We're so absorbed.
Yeah.
And so we pick up some fears from the world. We pick up from just being caring people out there in the world. We're healers. We're walking around the world. We care about the well-being of others. So then we pick up all these emotions, these thoughts, these feelings, and that then mixes with our true feelings. So then we have mixed
Confused.
feelings,
Yeah.
right?
Confused. children. Yes.
And
Yeah.
but whereas if we bring our energy up into the higher chakras when we want to tune into really those really important questions that we are asking that impact our lives, questions on behalf of for our career or for our relationship or as a parent, whatever it might be, where to move, where to live.
Mm,
So
mm.
tuning into the higher chakras, the sixth and the seventh, that helps people to kind of clear that murky zone. So
Mm,
I think, I would never say don't be tuned into your feelings. That's not what it's about. It's just that if you tap into that sixth, seventh, you're seeing and you're knowing it's just a higher vibrational frequency. That's all. It's
yeah,
just because it's a higher chakra, not a so much a body level chakra. And so it's easier to move out of the murky zone where sometimes your feeling is correct and other times it's like, oh, I was picking up on the conversation I had when I went out for coffee with my friend and I absorbed some of her energy because I really wanted to help her and now
yeah.
I'm confused about what I want to do,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, 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 no, it does. And it's really interesting because you've already kind of alluded to how you tap into your intuition. And this is what I want to kind of get into next. But I want to say that how I go about it sometimes. Like clearly finding a space, a quiet time where you can just sit with yourself and just, AKA meditation, unless it's a guided meditation, but that can also bring up things that you weren't aware of, is wonderful. Um, but I think that one of the best times to do this is, or like, this is how I often, if I've not had a chance to meditate in the day, or it's like when I'm just getting sleepy and I've read my book or scrolled on my phone for long enough, and I put that down and I'm lying in bed, light's not off yet, and I just lie there with myself. And that's when I find like lots of creative, real truth kind of drops in. Other times I will just, I don't want to listen to the radio in the car or music. I'm just not in the mood. And I just have silence. And I just ask my brain, I wonder what my brain is thinking at the moment. I wonder what is going on for me right now. And it's a really simple inquiry to just go, oh, what's going on? What's important? What are we thinking? What are we feeling? I think it's so simple, but it's terrifying because we don't do it. It's something that we have to remember to do, and just check in with yourself. And exactly what you say, you've got all of these feelings, but you need to let all of those feelings settle because the truth will rise to the top. I'm trying to think of an analogy of what floats to the top. Oil. I don't know, the valuable stuff.
Cream.
Cream. Yes, that's better. Cream. Cream will float to the top. So yeah, it's just finding a little bit of quietness and just allowing what wants to come up. And sometimes it's really interesting and surprising what will come up into your brain. But I know that's when I have like I'm planning my yoga retreat at the moment. So as I'm lying down, because I'm so busy doing everything else in my life, the house and everything, that's often the only time I get. So I lie down on my bed. Okay, so what? How do I want this session part to look? And I'll just ask the question, and then all these ideas just kind of rush in, and then I have to kind of wake myself, get my phone, write it all down in there, But talk to me about tapping into our intuition on a daily basis. So we've talked about like finding a quiet space, just allowing everything to settle. What else is there in your eyes for really like tuning into our intuition?
Yeah, and by the way, I loved what you're saying about just curiosity and
Yeah.
just asking and just
Yeah.
having everything else turned off.
Mm.
Just put our phone aside on a shelf or something for a little while and even the music just maybe turn that off and there's a time for music, there's a time for our
Because
phone.
we're
But
so programmed to be just like busy
yeah,
and stimulated all the
yeah,
times. And I think if you go your day without having some silence, having some no phone time, no music time, just alone with yourself time, I think that sometimes that feels really scary to just
yeah,
okay, just sit in a room on your own with nothing. Ooh, terrifying.
right.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think that that is something. I mean, growing spiritually and following your intuition brings you so much joy,
Mm.
really fundamentally, but it can be a little intimidating. It can make people feel apprehensive. Like,
Yes,
what am I gonna see? What's gonna happen? I don't know if I
absolutely.
want to unpack that. And
Mm.
so that's why you want to really make it fun for yourself too. So, I mean, I think if you want to really just practice it and you want to create a safe space, basically a space for you to feel safe about tapping into your intuition on a daily basis. So it's almost like fun to gamify it, if you will.
Yeah,
That word is kind
yeah.
of funny, gamify it, but it's really true. Make it into a fun thing. Like if you're taking a walk and you come to, do I want to go left or do I want to go right on this trail? Which way would be somehow more inspiring or more beautiful or more interesting or bring me
Mm.
in a direction that's more fulfilling? Something simple like that, or choosing where you want to go for dinner or where you want to go for, let's say you're going to go away somewhere for 2 nights. Do I want to go here or here? And so that's what I mean by start to tap into it in a way that makes you feel really safe and that's really simple and everyday. Make your intuition into an everyday normalized practice rather than something that we reserve for just special occasions or when everything goes sideways. Because
Mm.
sometimes that's when people come to me to work with me, let's say on a one-on-one session or something like that, is like everything's kind of gone sideways and they're looking for guidance and answers. And that's a great thing to do. But I would say, get practiced so that really, if you're just using it and making it fun and safe for yourself and learning to trust it, learning to have certainty in it, then when things do go kind of sideways, which happens to everyone,
Hmm.
then we really trust it more and we can start to tap into it and for the bigger things where we feel like where the stakes are higher. I mean,
Mm.
so sometimes the stakes are much higher in our choices. And so have a sense of humor about it and don't be afraid to make a wrong choice. Like let's say you go to the parking, it's a huge, I don't know, like a mall or something, you're trying to figure out where to park and there's no parking. And you ask your intuition to guide you to that spot and you go to the exact opposite. And you go, oh, well, actually, I should have gone. My intuition told me to go the other way. And I actually second guessed it.
Yeah. Oh my
And
God. How often do we second guess?
yes, second guessing happens all the time. It's,
Yeah.
because we're trained from day one at school to just use our intellectual abilities, our learned skills. And
Yeah.
so, really, because we have such intensive training in that way, and we're really fundamentally sort of we're sort of given the message to put the creativity aside, put the intuition aside, and
Mm.
and those what we call like soft skills or whatever,
Yeah.
put all those skills aside and just focus on the grades, the achievement, the intellectual achievement.
Yeah.
And so we just end up so much in our heads.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's you've
yeah.
touched on the thing that I want to get into next, which I think is a really, I mean, you've put it like front and center alongside intuition in your book title, and that is the importance of creativity. Because as you say, art and creative things are, in schools, maybe back in our day more so than now, fingers crossed, hopefully. But creativity was seen as a sort of sub thing to do. Like if you're good at art, oh, well done you, but it's not really going to get you anywhere. Now, when you look around the world, like how many jobs are really creative that actually really need
Yeah.
creativity and how powerful tapping into our creativity can be. Now, along with, I'm sure, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of other people, were told at the age of about 13 that I was no good at art and I should really go and do economics instead because that would be much more practical, much more useful. And what a stupid decision that was because look at me now. Are economics important to me? No. Do I need to know Keynesian? I can't remember the name of the economist, but it's tell me about how important creativity is to our intuition and to our higher selves.
Yes, I mean, we're all creative beings. We're
Yeah.
all so incredibly creative. And yes, luckily that conversation at least is opening up a lot more in the
Mm,
world, in workplaces, in really,
yeah.
very businessy workplaces. That
Yeah.
that is now being validated and kind of brought in, but really there's still a lot of messaging out there. Where people think, they think about themselves, I'm not creative.
Yeah.
I'm not a creative person. I can't even do creative visualization. Like when I teach, I take people through a lot of creative visualization and people think, "Oh, I don't think I can do that." But then they just start doing it because
Mm,
it's because we're creative beings. We're all incredibly creative. And our intuition is really there to guide our creativity because if you think about it, with our creativity, there's so many directions we can go in.
yeah.
And so, what direction do we go in? Once we start to decide, yeah, well, you know what? Maybe I am creative. Maybe I'm a gardener and I'm really creative that way. Maybe I'm a
Mm,
writer, or maybe I'm a public speaker. I'm going to use my my creativity to
mm,
put together what I'm going to say, or whatever it
yeah.
is, cooking, baking,
Yeah.
what you
Exactly. There's
name
so
it,
many different ways to find your
right?
creativity, and
But
each
and
and
then
every one
we're
of them is just magical and transformative. I had that experience probably about, I don't know, people who've listened to this will be bored of this same story, but um, several years back, probably about 7 or 8 years back, I decided that I wanted to, for some reason, I was just like, I'd really like to try throwing a pot on try to do a bit of pottery. And I've been completely hooked ever since. But I'm convinced that opening up that, cracking open my creativity, because I always, up until 8 years ago, I was like, I can't do art. I'm just like, I can do a doodle, but I'm useless. That was my internal narrative around my own creativity.
right.
But I swear to God, it cracked me open in so many different facets of my life in terms of what I could do and my confidence in myself. Now, it could be anything, it could be knitting or crocheting or
Yeah,
just like decorating your home, like whatever it is,
right.
we are all creative beings. And most importantly, we are creative in the terms of a sacral chakra, reproductively, we are creative. We have that capacity, should we choose, to be creative. It's a hugely important part of being human.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And you're right. I call it the female creative matrix. It's incredible. That is an
Yes.
infinitely creative space, right? We create a child through that space and it doesn't matter even if we never create a child through that space. We have that space within us in our female bodies and it's
Yeah,
an amazing space.
I
And
know. In the power that lives there. Like I have this lovely woman coach who I sometimes chat with, and she's going, instead of saying, "Oh, that takes balls," she goes, "That takes ovaries," and I'm like, "Yes, let's co-opt that term. Like it takes ovaries to get ourselves out into the. I love that. But yes, we have the power of the divine feminine. This is another thing that I know that you are really big on, and I want to talk to you about. So, talk to me about your interpretation of divine feminine energy and power, because this is where it gets really juicy. I love.
Yeah. Well, the divine feminine, I see it as like a field of consciousness that's
Mm.
really bubbling up on the planet. That's really
Yes,
and it's really available for everyone.
absolutely.
It's certainly not just for a female body, it's for any body, literally any body.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful energy that it's where our intuition lives. It's a receptive energy. And of course, we live in a culture that's all about doing, doing, doing. And so but our intuition comes in on that receptive energy, right? Because we're receiving answers. We are asking and we are receiving and
Yeah.
manifesting as well, right? We are creating a space to receive. And so the divine feminine it's this incredible high level of creative energy. Speaking of creativity, so it's incredibly creative. And it's also collaborative. So it's meant to be inclusive, bringing everyone together, everybody together,
Mm.
to collaborate and grow together rather than function individually in a competitive way, like things are on the planet right
Hmm.
now at the high
Hmm.
levels of government, right?
Yeah.
So this is a beautiful energy where and
Mm.
just the high level of creativity is amazing. And it's a very I think that our nervous systems really like that divine feminine energy, speaking like on a body or somatic level. Like
Mm.
it just feels it's very nourishing because especially as females, we don't
Yeah.
learn how to give to ourselves or take care of ourselves. We really for the most part, learn how to take care of others and really focus on output, that
Yeah.
output. And so that energy it's a beautiful way, like just tuning into it, saying hello, kind of as I just saying hello to it within yourself and starting to become
Mm.
aware and cultivating it is very healing for not just for the mind, but for the body because it is innate. It's an energy it's I mean, it's an energy that's always been around, but now it's kind of like it's ready to it's kind of holding space for transformation for good
Yes.
spiritual transformation that's collaborative and inclusive to happen, which
Yeah.
that transformation is happening. It's just that a lot of times if we turn on the news, we don't get the news of that, do we?
No, 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 we don't. We don't get that. Like being in a group of women, all rooting for each other. Like for me, that's and supporting each other and holding space for each other. That is like that's for me. That's when I feel like that's the incredible, like that's really tangible power of that divine feminine of holding. Um, and yeah, you're right. That doesn't hit the headlines, but I feel like it is happening more and more. And I think there are more people out there doing that work and being in those spaces where we're holding each other up. But it is challenging. It is really, um, because the force field of the doing masculine energy and the competitiveness, yeah, is quite something to battle against. But as I said, we've got the ovaries for it. I think yeah, it's so important. When I do chakra readings, and I read people's energy, I always ask them to go in and visualize what their inner goddess looks like, because that is like a visualization of their
Yeah.
divine feminine, and it kind of gives it shape. And I don't think I've ever asked anybody, um, and they've not come up with some kind of an image. Um, Actually, no, there's a couple of occasions where they haven't been able to, but then that's the work to just sort of to reconnect. But the images that are so different are so, so different. You've got people who come up and go, yeah, my goddess was like a warrior, and this sort of, and other times like really serene or really quiet or really dark or like it's so fascinating because this inner goddess, this physical, well, not physical, but this kind of embodied divine feminine within is unique for everybody. And it just reflects this incredible power and diversity that there is within the feminine energy.
Yes, that's so true. One time I was snorkeling. This is a story to do with divine feminine, but one time I was
Yeah.
snorkeling in the South Pacific, and I was with some guides, some snorkeling, some guides that were with me and my daughter and husband, some other people to show us, um, where to find these gigantic manta rays. And
Oh, wow.
so we were floating above these manta rays that were like 15 feet, 20 feet, huge, enormous manta rays. And one was called, and the snorkeling guides see these particular manta rays so often that they had named them. And so one, the guides had named Hulk, and because this manta was so enormous. And so the guide said that um, this was that Hulk was a male, or one of the guides said Hulk was a male, and so as I was just floating and watching this manta, I realized that Hulk was actually a female because she showed me all for a moment, even though she was like this metallic kind of gray color, or at least that's what it looked like through the water.
Mm.
She suddenly showed me all these incredible divine feminine colors, and she said to me, I'm a female. See my and she showed her divine feminine colors, and then I popped my head up and I said to somebody else who also had been looking at Hulk, I said, gosh, I feel like she might be a female. And so we went over and we asked this other snorkeling guide who had just been out with scientists that were studying the mantas. And
Mm.
this other guide said, I said, is Hulk really a male or is Hulk maybe a female? And he said, oh, I was just out with the scientists last week and they said Hulk is a female. And so it was this really amazing. I realized the divine feminine, that energy that could show up as the way I was seeing it was like an aura of colors. And I realized that the divine feminine, it's not just, of course, it's not just us humans, the animals embody that divine feminine.
Yeah,
And I mean, Mother Earth, of
yeah,
course, Mother
absolutely.
Nature.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the most beloved and powerful animals in nature, so let's take elephants and lions,
Yeah.
they are led by women.
Yeah.
The males just hang out, they go and do their own thing. But the tribe, the families, all led, nurtured by the female. The divine feminine lives in every ounce, in every flower and blade of
Yeah.
grass and every tree. And, yeah, I like to, I feel like I can tell whether a tree is masculine or feminine.
Yeah.
I think that everything has its own energy.
Right.
Everything has its own, but I I know that you would say this as well, but the divine feminine, this feminine energy is not just living in female bodies or in female animals. It is something that is so precious for men to, and people who live in male bodies and identify as male, to embody and to feel into as well, because it's the yin and the yang. We want to be made up of both things, the creativity and projection and doing, but we also need to be receptive and soft and nurturing and connected. And this is definitely where the intuition lives, within that nurturing, grounded connection. So,
So
God,
absolutely. I mean, and it's really a balancing because
yeah,
we've
yeah.
become so unbalanced on the masculine energy part that
Mm.
it's really a matter of bringing balance in. And I've noticed the younger generation that's coming in of all male and female bodies, they're more balanced with the masculine and
But
feminine.
yeah,
They're coming in that
absolutely.
way.
Absolutely. And I think our
Yeah,
generation have, certainly the women who've gone into try to make themselves successful, try and had a career, they have had to operate in a masculine way in order to be
100%.
successful, because that's the only way that they could get to break the glass ceilings and whatever. And so, yeah, there's a yet another transition
Yeah.
where the feminine energy of showing up with all your moods and your messiness and your authenticity and your chaos is welcome and valued, and actually just as productive, just as powerful, just as useful as anything that's well organized and you know boxed away in a polite, presentable way.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. The
yeah,
and the older generation, they had to go in and,
they did.
like
But
my mom being in the academic world as a professor, she really had to run that male energy just to
yeah,
survive, just to
yeah,
get through. So,
yeah,
yeah, and the younger generation is coming in way more balanced and
way
more open,
balanced.
and
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
it is. It really
Yeah,
is. So Gwyneth, I want to talk to you about chakras and auras and clairvoyancy. And God, we're going to run out of time. This is just, I've so many things I want to talk to you about. So, clairvoyance, which means clear seeing, is basically, I mean, to a lay person, clairvoyance would be like, oh, you can tell the future. You can tell me, look in your crystal ball and tell me when I'm going to meet my husband and that kind of thing. Do you get that a lot when you tell people that you kind of can train people to be more clairvoyant?
Yeah, I mean, I think people think that it's, oh, I'm not clairvoyant. That's just, people think that about themselves. Like I
Yeah.
would say everyone's clairvoyant, just like
Hmm.
everyone's intuitive, but it's so interesting that word, and that's why I oftentimes don't even use that word because it's somehow people think that it's just reserved for somebody that is just born clairvoyant and like you said, like they could see the future and they have a crystal ball or they're wearing a
Yeah.
headscarf and looking into a crystal ball, whatever it might
Yes,
be, and so a
exactly.
lot of times in my book, I just focus on intuition really. And
Yeah.
that as a word because it can be so confusing to people. But yeah, it's just it- really, I could say intuitive, I could say clairvoyant. There's so many different ways to kind of say the same thing. I mean,
Mm.
technically, clairvoyance is seeing, the seeing and reading from your sixth chakra. And it's about, and the training of clairvoyance is really just about reading energy in present time, being able to just read energy and translate and distinguish between different kinds of energies. And so
Mm.
anybody can really become clairvoyant or be trained and we're having clairvoyant experiences already. It's just becoming more it's a matter of what just becoming more consciously aware. Like
Yeah.
for example, if we're an architect, that's just one example. We're envisioning this mock-up of this house or this building
Yeah.
that we're going to then manifest or not, maybe we create an iteration of it, like a version of it, and we go,
Mm.
no, not that. Create another one. And we're
Yeah.
envisioning it, and then it becomes physical, or we're always envisioning, where do I want to travel? Or what do I even want to say to this person in this difficult conversation I have to say
Mm.
to where we have to have this big conversation, and how do I envision this going?
Yeah.
How do I envision my business? I envision a business that would be like this and this and this. And so we use it all the time, or we even
Mm.
receive messages that would be like a symbol. Some people are very
Yeah.
visual in that sense. Like they'll go, oh, I see a four-leaf clover, or, what is
Yeah.
that?
Or they
Or
see angel numbers, or they see
yeah,
a particular animal, or they see, and this is kind of, verging onto what it is basically manifestation, which is massive, such a massive buzzword, and everybody's, working towards manifesting things. But yeah, that visualization of it, that imagining of how it is and how it's going to feel and what it looks like, and you can't create anything until you've imagined what it is you want,
that's right. And the what happens sometimes is because if we don't sort of clear out the past experiences, or you might call them the blocks or the old patterns.
Mm,
And sometimes when we go to visualize or imagine, and we can do that through our knowing, we don't have to see, we can just know,
yeah,
but if we're imagining, but we unconsciously have certain blocks and old patterns that we haven't cleared out yet, sometimes that just means that like one area of our life, generally people have areas that are smooth sailing in their lives.
yeah,
Oh yeah, that's so easy for me to create that. And and then they
yeah,
have some other area where, oh, every time I try to create that, then I just have this, I don't understand what happens, but it just doesn't work out. And so that's why it's really beneficial to use your intuition and or
mm,
your clairvoyance consciously because otherwise we're unconsciously intuitive or clairvoyant, and
mm,
that's you can get mixed results with that, so you might as well make it conscious, bring
yeah,
it to cultivate it as a practice, and
yeah,
then that helps you to really start to release where you have some kind of information essentially that's outdated,
yeah,
um, that can be unconsciously there, something that you learned, like let's say when you were 10 years old in your family,
Mm,
everybody does this in a certain way, but it really doesn't work for you now in present time. Maybe it worked
yeah,
when you were 10, maybe it
yeah.
didn't. But so that's really where the fun starts is in the practice of learning to read energy, is you're really updating. You're updating your life to present time. Because your chakras contain information, right? So some of that information is really helpful and beneficial, and some of it is brought in from some other time, and it's no
Mm,
longer beneficial. And so
yeah.
we realize something's there. We're able to use our conscious awareness or our intuition or our clairvoyance to notice it. And then as soon as we notice it, I always feel like we're 50% there.
Oh, absolutely. Awareness is
Yeah.
absolutely king in this work. I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah.
When I'm reading somebody's chakras, like it's always such an interesting thing because you read the chakras. I go into great detail, and I want to talk to you about how you use the chakras in your work as well. Um, but I feel like what I'm doing is I'm basically just holding up a big mirror and they begin to see themselves. And that I'm not telling them anything they don't already know, but it's stuff that they've just locked away in that cupboard over there because they'd rather not look at it, or it's a bit uncomfortable, or they don't know how to deal with it, or they perhaps even didn't know it was there.
Right.
But their awareness of knowing this thing and going, actually, this is my strength, this is my superpower right here. And this over here, that's where I'm weaker. This is what's blocking me. And maybe it's got something to do with X, Y, and Z. As soon as you have that, yeah, half the weight gone,
Yeah.
lifted, newness comes in. It's incredible.
That is the most exciting place to be. I love
Yeah,
that moment
yeah.
because I mean, I've taken so many classes myself and then taught, for so long, taught so many classes, whether it's happening to me or I'm watching it happening to somebody else. I love that moment, that aha moment. I call it an aha
Yes.
moment.
The aha moments, we live for them because they are. But like once you've had an aha moment like that, once you've seen, that truth, that light, that whatever it is, like you're not going to forget it. You can't go back. You can't just.
Right.
Yeah, it's a pivotal moment when that aha moment drops. And I think a lot of people who feel stuck in life and feel like, oh, as you're saying, oh, I keep trying, but I keep hitting the same brick wall time and time again. It's like, yeah, because there's some unconscious, subconscious pattern that you're holding on to, that belief of value or whatever, that's not really yours and it's getting in your way. So let's work out what it is. And as soon as they know it, then they'll recognize it. And I'm not saying you don't fall over your own feet because, oh my God, you do. Like, you can be aware of a trigger point and go, oh no, I know that. And then next thing you know, oh whoopsie, there I go, fall over that again. But you pick yourself up that much faster, that much quicker. You notice it, you go, okay, next time I won't fall over that particular bump in the road because it always
Yeah, I
happens.
love that. That's so true. And I
Mm.
mean, it's the thing is that we want to give ourselves permission really to be have the experience of healing ourselves or healing our lives or reaching that aha moment. We can't get there unless we make it experiential. If we're
Yeah,
just thinking about it and going, "Oh, that sounds theoretically nice. I would like to change that thing. I know that thing is going on and I would like to think about changing that thing." That's very
mm,
different than
mm,
um, experiencing it for yourself, having an
yeah,
experiential
yeah.
um,
Actually deciding, making
moment.
a conscious decision to do the work. And yeah, I'm with
Yeah,
you.
it's like a gift to yourself. I mean, it's really the ultimate commitment. I say that, like most people hate that word commitment, but it's a beautiful commitment to yourself because it's not a commitment to somebody else or to something else. If you're
Yes.
committed to that within yourself, then it's just a beautiful invitation. It's like,
Yeah.
let's dance. Okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Because, we have this incredible opportunity to live this life in this particular body, in this particular time, surrounded by these particular people. And so, why wouldn't we just dive in and find out as much as we possibly can about ourselves and about the world around us and how it works and how we relate to it? Um, and so I work obviously with chakras a lot deeply, but I'm not so of, obviously I probably am working with auras, but not in a conscious way. Tell me about your work that you do, and how you use the auras or auras in your
Yeah, I
work.
mean, I love teaching people to read the chakras and read the layers of the aura. And the aura is oftentimes what we'll see when we're just walking around in the world. We'll oftentimes tune into somebody's aura without knowing that we are. We'll do it sort of unconsciously. We'll be picking up on different um, like information or experiences that a person has had. But really, the way I look at our aura is, and we have all these different layers to our aura, but it's we come in with all this information. We come into the world when we're born with
Mm,
all this information in our aura. And then as our lives progress, it contains sort of our story. We start to cycle out what information we don't need so much and cycle in and hopefully update, once again, updating into present time our experiences that we're having, if that makes sense.
mm,
So we can really cycle a lot through our aura, and we can really heal it. It's this space, it's this egg-shaped electromagnetic energy field around us. And
yeah.
so we think like the space around us is empty, but it's really not empty. It contains all this information, and it's really this incredible space. And actually you can even feel it with your hands. Like if you just put your hands out and then you slowly bring your hands in, when you get to your aura, you will actually notice. And our aura can be, sometimes it's way out, sometimes it's way in, a lot of times it's sort of 3, 4 feet around us, but you'll
Yeah, it's really
notice there's
nice.
a different
I can feel
vibrational
it.
frequency.
Yeah,
Did you
yeah,
notice?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm out there, and then it's like through clear air, and then it's like I've hit a little invisible wall just about there.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
nice. I mean, I feel into my aura a lot. If I'm like in a challenging situation, or if someone's, being difficult or whatever, like I can I can kind of like make my aura kind of like Teflon. So like I'm quite good at sort of tuning into that and just going, oh, like butter, everything flows like off it. But it's, yeah, it is and again, it's just an awareness, isn't it? It's just learning
Yeah.
that you have that potential and you have the awareness.
Yeah. I mean, and the aura is connected to the chakras, and, everything's connected. Everything's
Mm,
totally interconnected. That's just vibrational frequency.
mm,
Our body is just a denser vibrational frequency, but our
yeah,
chakras are connected to our endocrine system, and the
yeah.
aura is connected to all, the chakras. And it's just what is being actually seen. And, it's the chakras and the auras, of course, that's something that people have known about for thousands of years.
Yeah.
But everything in time, most things that are metaphysical become eventually scientifically proven, like the
Yes.
reticular activation system, or the RAS. Now they've proven, it's like scientists have proven that basically what that is, that RAS system is, it just shows that that we focus our, we look for more of what we believe. So
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny that, they came out with this,
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, they just yeah. I know it is. It's I love it. I love that when science goes and proves it. But also I find it really useful in my work anyway, because if you've got a scientific, if there's a new scientific discovery, or somebody's proven things, like Dr. Joe Dispenza's done a lot of scientific experiments that really prove a lot of stuff about the benefits of meditation and
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff. And and it just helps our cause. It helps our,
Yes.
it helps convert more people who go, oh, it's a load of woo-woo nonsense, which like 10, 20, 30 years ago, that would be the response. And now it's like accepted, in the same way that when I started doing yoga 30 years ago, that was a bit out there. And
Yeah.
now that you can't go anywhere without falling over a yoga class, that's everywhere. So I'm hoping that, in 20 years' time, that's my mission anyway, in 20,
Right.
10, even shorter years' time, everybody understands about their energetic body and knows about the
Yeah.
chakra system and can therefore live a slightly more whole and peaceful, happy, balanced life without the struggle that seems to be so
Exactly. I mean,
endemic.
Harvard's done so many studies on
Yeah.
meditation. I mean, there's even universities that are studying the electromagnetic energy field, i.e.,
Yeah.
the aura, just different name for it. So yeah, it's really interesting, and it's funny that you said what you said. You said you like to visualize or imagine like a protective shield in your aura because I teach something that I call body of glass, and it's exactly what you just described.
Yeah.
Because you're so intuitive, you're just tuned in to that
Just-
in yourself, and what it
Yeah.
is just that the energy, as energy comes our way from the world, which it does, and
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
different types of energy, right? When we're out there in the world, that it can just kind of pass through, no resistance, that it
Yes.
can just pass through,
Flow.
not get stuck because
Yeah.
we're not resisting it because what we resist persists. So when it comes to our
Exactly.
aura, just giving ourselves that space to just be comfortable in our aura and in our space
Mm.
and not resisting the energy of
Yeah.
the world or
And we
that
resist
kind of
things
thing.
that are discomfort.
Yeah,
We resist the things that are not comfortable and we hold them at bay. But the problem with that is that we're not letting them pass through. And
exactly.
when we resist them, they just stay there. And then that's when, discomfort and dis-ease and excuse me, all of those kind of things show up. If we can just like, okay, so this horrible feeling has got to come through me, oh, I'll survive, and then out it goes. Then yeah, this is our mission, right, Gwyneth? We're definitely on the same page in a lot of
Absolutely.
so many aspects. I love this. So Gwyneth, tell people how they can work with you, what you offer, and where they can find you and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, so you can find me at gwynethflack.com. That's my website. You can certainly find me there. And
Perfect.
I offer online courses, and sometimes I have retreats. And you can also buy my book, Limitless, Transform Your Life with Intuition and Creativity, or the
Wonderful.
audio book is available as well. So yes,
Mhm.
or both.
Or
Check
both, or
out my
all.
book, which is
Yes.
an introduction to really developing how do I develop intuition and higher levels of creativity?
Mm,
How do I make it more of an everyday part of my life? And it's
yeah.
got like 20 activities in it,
Love
lots
that.
of activities in and 7 chapters to really kind of establish like a really strong foundation for being intuitive. But
Perfect.
also send me an email. I've got a 4 series intuitive tools class. I could send you the audio recordings if somebody wants to, email me. I could send them as a gift the audio recordings of the class I did from April to June this year on Zoom.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
So
Okay, that's super kind. That's wonderful. What a lovely offer. Let's all take that one up because there's always something to learn. Even if you think, oh yeah, no, all this sounds really familiar and I'm in touch with my intuition. I think there's always new ways that we can expand that. And also, like if you know somebody who you think could benefit, it's a good present for somebody who who you think might benefit from getting more in touch with their intuition. So I always,
yeah, and I'm
I
going to
feel like
teach a
my listeners are lovely and beautiful and switched on, and so they need to keep spreading the word. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Gwyneth. Thank you for your time today, your very precious time. I really appreciate that. And thank you for sharing your passion and your knowledge with us. I really appreciate it. It's been really fun chatting with you. I've loved it.
Yes, it's been super fun to chat with you. Thanks so much for having me on.
You're Very welcome.